You too. We'll keep it going.
Thanks for getting your Monday started off right with America's morning headquarters.
Yep, we'll use the mid-morning hours to plan for the big events in your neighborhood. And we go first to the home of the first sunrise in the U.S. Not looking so bright out here in the skies today. Even after Lee moved out, we've got Ogunquit and the rest of the Northeast that is swamped by showers today after the big waves moved up the coast.
Yeah, not brightening up not very much in some of those spots. You know, despite some of the rain, though, Climate Week, that is kicking off in New York City today, and Stephanie Abrams is actually going to be live with a bit of a preview of this week's event.
It's so rainy and murky out here. Oh.
It's like, what am I even looking at?
I know. We'll take you in to see Steph, but also see what else is happening out there on the radar. Plus, we have more coastal issues coming ashore. There's an area to watch here, right off the southeastern coast when it comes to the tropics. So we have got to keep an eye on this, and we'll tell you why and what you can expect.
One word: front.
This time
I like
of
the
year,
cold fronts, but this time of the year they can be a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah. They're a double-edged sword for sure. Now, that is wet and soggy conditions ahead, all part of today's big deal.
Yep, it's all about
chances here across the middle of the country. Start with today. It's isolated and really coming in later today into this evening. But the chance of storms into the Texas Panhandle, including around Amarillo and around Plainview and down towards Lubbock, that chance of storms will be late in the day. And everything's kind of limited. We don't have all the ingredients together just yet, but we've got a chance. You can see isolated storms out there continuing. This is about 9 o'clock tonight or so. If there are storms, likely damaging winds or hail would be the main threat, and probably damaging winds, the main threat. But then you notice things kind of calm down. And that sets the stage for what's about to happen tomorrow. So tomorrow we get into a bigger risk when it comes to the chance of severe weather. Oklahoma City, right in the heart of it, extends down into northern Texas. Dallas and Abilene, we may even see some storms too. Strong damaging winds is by far the biggest threat, but we also have that chance for some larger hail, especially as we evolve later into the evening. We could see that hail more than 2-inch size or greater. That does some significant damage here. You must certainly have a claim if your car gets hit by 2-inch size hail. So here's a look at what we're dealing with here. You know, there'll be a couple of showers around early in the day. We're going to have some mid-level energy coming on in. And once everything starts coming together, we'll start to see these storms be a bit more organized, be a bit more potent in terms of that risk for severe weather. And we'll have to keep an eye on that late night time frame, watching these cells. Oklahoma City, down towards Wichita Falls, even Dallas. Some of these could be dropping some big hail. Got to watch out for that here as they continue even after the sun sets. It's not just linked to the instability you get from the sunshine. And then Wednesday's forecast, same area. So things are kind of stuck this week. We bring it back again with that risk of thunderstorms.
When it comes to the summer heat and humidity, but when they get stuck, they can cause problems and bring areas of low pressure.
It feels like no rest for the weary as well, considering we just dealt with Lee and the threats from that in the Northeast, and now we bring this in. It's one after another.
All right. Well, you know, right now the world is watching New York as the biggest names in climate come to the Big Apple.
Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams joins us now with a look at what is on the agenda for Climate Week. Steph?
Yeah, and so New York City is actually playing host to
That's awesome stuff here. It's so funny when you're like, yeah, here on the farm, and you're on a rooftop in New York City on a skyscraper. That's fantastic.
In the concrete jungle, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, great. Can't wait to see more.
That's awesome. Couldn't have worked out any better having a nasty wet day that gives us a chance to see how it all works, right?
As it turns out.
Well, between tropical systems and storm fronts, so different, right?
Yes. Summer rain is warmer than fall rain.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm picking.
I know what you're picking.
But although I don't want to miss out on a good day of summer when it's raining.
Right. It's not the easiest choice, but
it's not. We don't make them easy. But you can go to X and Threads to send us your comments and vote in our poll.
New York this week. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams is there to give us a bit of a preview of Climate Week NYC. And Steph, what can we expect to see here in the Big Apple this week?
Say it one more time, Alex.
I was asking, what can we expect this week there in NYC?
Well, you have people from all over the world, and we're going to talk about what's happening around the world to help out Mother Earth.
It's fantastic stuff here. We're looking at that garden, just thinking like that's farm to table right there. That's farm to table. Literally, you go up to the roof and get your vegetables. Great stuff, Steph. We're looking forward to hearing more from you today and this week. Steph will be live for us in New York City, and we'll keep following what's happening with that rain out there. As you saw, rain coming down right now in New York City, but we'll see. It's not going to last all day.
Right.
Magnetic, but literally.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty cool stuff. One of those things that's on the list, the bucket list.
Yes,
right?
same here. All right, well, today in the Northeast, what you're seeing this morning is just a lot of rain and not much else.
Yeah, gray skies. It's always tough on a Monday just in general, right?
Yes,
then you add gray skies. Oh.
Well, I kind of think a rainy Monday is good.
Supposed to be?
It gets you out. It's like out of weekend mode.
Does it, or does it keep you into like, I just don't want to even get out of bed?
I don't know. It's like, well, if my weekend has to end, at least I'm not missing any good weather.
That is true. That is true.
Well, I mean, most of us do have the rain either way. You look at it, although not everyone. So I'll show you where we don't have it as well. It was a rainy weekend in Maine because of Lee. That's where we had the biggest rain from Lee. Up here, that's where we had about 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. Lubec, Maine, one of the spots picking up some of the most. And then all of this other rain that you saw into New England, this was because of 2 fronts that we had to deal with last week. And we saw some big flooding rain in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. We didn't get much out of Lee here. Boston, it was less than 1/10 of an inch. But now the soil is saturated because of what we had last week. For whatever reason, it came down. And now we're left with concerns for flooding when we bring more rain in. So there is a flood watch that's in effect through tomorrow. Eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island in that as well. A lot of New Hampshire, and then also watching a big chunk of Maine. That's where some of the biggest moisture will go. At the moment, it's pretty light rain. We saw that in Stephanie's live report there in New York City from the garden there on the farm on top of Javits Center. 65 degrees though and raining, so it's kind of a chilly rain out there. Look at all this moisture offshore, and we are going to have a little piece of energy that will swing out and help move this up into New England and bringing us some heavier rain coming our way. So you see all this moisture out here and you think, oh, it's going away. Kind of. We're watching this come on in, and this is going to help bring all the moisture right up here into New England. So we end up with some of the heaviest of rain through today. Watching that on Long Island, around New Haven in Connecticut, up towards Worcester, Massachusetts, all through the Hudson Valley. You'll have some chance of showers out there. And we will see that rain heavy at times. You know, you watch these bright yellows on the radar, the forecast radar, and that's where we'll see some of the bigger rainfall rates. So we could end up with some flooding. Got to watch that about the time they commute home. This is 6 or 7 o'clock, and the rain is still coming down here. Boston, I think your ride home is going to be tough. All the outdoor activities for the kids this evening, whether it's, you know, football or soccer, we are going to have a lot of rain to deal with, and that's probably going to at least postpone some of those events with the grassy fields. Now, we've got the rainfall on the order of 1 to 2 inches, maybe even 2 to 3. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we get into tomorrow. All right, Alex, other spot to watch is the plains for storms.
Yeah, that's right. That's a zone from the system. Fortunately, it was moving, and that certainly helped us out in not getting some of the just incredible rain amounts that you could get.
All right, so that's moving out and north, and at the moment here, not a concern. We've got a couple of areas to look at, though. Nigel right in the middle. It is a hurricane now, and it's probably going to become a major hurricane.
Yeah, and fortunately, at least for now, looks like it's going to stay out there in the middle of nowhere, which is where we like these things to just kind of hang out.
Even Bermuda hopefully won't be threatened by this one because they've had a season. What, 3 storms already have threatened them?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Area to watch off the coast of Africa. We'll have to watch that one here. That may be the next one here in terms of, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens
to this one.
Closest to us.
So this is an area to watch right off the coast. It's because we have a front that's kind of going to hang out here for a little bit. And you worry about these things this time of year because you can get tropical development and it can spin up pretty quickly. Now, we only have a 30% chance right now, but you got to keep an eye on things. Because look where it is.
Right.
Close.
Very close to land, which may be one of the things that might help us in terms of it developing, because if it hits land too quickly, it won't have the chance to really develop too much.
Even if it doesn't develop, it's going to be there and it will have rain potential. And so there's still uncertainty in exactly where that's going to be, but models are different in terms of amounts. But this general zone, I mean, we're looking at the mid-Atlantic coast and up into parts of the Northeast.
We'll be keeping track. Well, Hales
National Parks is a great way to make memories with your family.
Meteorologist Chris Bruin jumped in the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander to spend a day in Death Valley National Park and discover the surprising diversity of the desert landscape. Exceeds the national average, which is just 0.5%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, much better. Those 80s, we can say goodbye to that. 74 expected for the day, enjoying sunshine and a few clouds.
All right, here. Good. Very interesting, Alex. My pick city this week. I mean, there is a lot here. In wintertime, you go ice fishing. Summertime, you go and enjoy the lakes and the trails. And St. Paul, we were looking at you there. You've got good weather today, and that's going to last through the week. We actually heat up quite a bit. Chance of storms comes in on Friday, and that does come with a front.
I thought we might be done with the mid-80s in this part of the world, but not quite, not so fast.
Yes.
At least not yet. All right, good stuff. All right, how about we revisit?
You could have perfectly blue sky, dew points in the 50s, like in Pensacola this morning.
Yeah.
but you also could have dew points in the 80s, like in
Like we're
South
seeing
Florida.
right now. Yeah, exactly. Which would you rather?
Yeah. Ooh, that's
I know what I'm picking.
I know what you're.
Wow. Ooh, and again, just a storm that fired up and sat.
With big rainfall rates. How often are we talking about that?
Too often.
Yep.
Well, thanks for getting your Monday started off right here with America's Morning Headquarters.
We're going to get you used to the mid-morning hours here. We'll use the mid-morning hours to plan for the big events in your neighborhood. And we'll take you out to perhaps the spot with the big waves over the weekend, the home of the first sunrise in the U.S. Not looking so bright out there this weekend.
Yeah, not so great, not so great. Even as Lee has moved on out, great conditions persisting.
Yes. All right. So we'll look at the rain that's coming in today, not because of a tropical system or anything, but we've got more rain in a big way coming in across this area.
And how about more coastal issues coming ashore with an odd area to watch here off the southeast coast? We're going to keep an eye on this zone here over the next few days. Right now, maybe towards the end of the week, something may try to develop. We'll let you know what's in the forecast to get this thing potentially going.
Yeah, so that's one to watch. Also, storms returning to the middle of the country with hail. Seems like this, maybe even bigger hail than this, actually.
Ooh, coming down and splashing out there, yeah. Dropping around in that mess. You just hope that the car doesn't get too much dent.
I know. Oh, it's the worst feeling.
Well, the wet and soggy conditions.
Here today, it actually gets a little worse before it gets better. For some, but not for everyone. Some of you do get better quickly. But here's a look back at what we saw over the weekend. This rain that we saw up here in Maine, this was from post-tropical Lee. This rain in southern New England was from two fronts that we had last week. Dropped big rainfall rates, saw flooding, kind of like the scene that you had in the Atlanta area. We had scenes just like that in parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And now we've got more rain coming in. So we have a flood watch in place. The rain itself is going to be heavy that we see in the forecast for today, but everything is very saturated after all of the moisture that we had last week. You can see the bulk of this hanging out right offshore right now. Some of that is going to be lifting up and heading right here into New England. So get ready for heavier rain than we have right now. At the moment, it's a lighter rain like in New York City and in Boston, up towards Portland, light rain showers. But as we get these there's two pops of energy in here. That kind of swings out, and then that helps pull up this moisture into New England. So we do end up with some bigger rainfall rates by later today. That could mean some traffic issues. Travel for your afternoon is going to be a mess on 95, Boston up to Maine. I mean, look at this rain coming in. We have the bright yellows and oranges and even reds on the forecast radar indicating some really heavy rainfall. And this is for hours. So I'm expecting slow travel. We know the accident rate goes up when we do have a lot of rain like this. And I'm expecting airport delays as well. This goes right through this evening. Look at Maine. We're raining still into the overnight hours. And that's why the flood watch does extend until tomorrow. 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible up here where you'll get into some of that biggest moisture plume coming on in. Elsewhere, it's less, and even New York City, it's less. It's probably less than an inch before this all wraps up for you later on today. One other spot getting the downpours is Florida.
Yes, it is, and that's going to trying to figure this thing out. Nothing's formed at this point, so it's going to be tough to kind of figure out what's going to happen with it with nothing that has formed.
And even if it doesn't form, we still have that same uncertainty in exactly wherever what it is tracking. So there's some differences, but both have some rain in the forecast.
Right, so that gives you some confidence that something is going to certainly increase our rain chances in the coming days.
Yeah.
Well, did you all notice that?
Maybe what you meant, but you know, the wet summers are good for the leaves too sometimes.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
So there's another reason. Your answer?
I actually still haven't voted yet.
Oh. Well, you got 1 hour
Yeah,
left.
I know. You too. So go to X and now Threads to send us your comments. You can share your...
It's like, oh my, look at that.
Yes. Now in the east, we've got some of you really warm this morning, like in South Florida. Everyone else, I would say, it's sort of appropriately comfortable.
That's a good way to put it. It's not like, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? This is crazy. We kind of hit this, it kind of gradually moved. Yeah, it's a sweet spot of the coolness. Overall, 60s and 70s. Dew points appropriately in the 50s.
Yeah. I mean, look, no one's liking the weather in Boston right now. It's raining. It's like 100% relative humidity with temperatures in the 60s. So, we'll throw that out. But everyone else is looking good.
Exactly. So overall, not too bad out there for you. You can see highs for the day. Cincinnati getting up to 77 for your afternoon. 80 in the ATL with some sunshine. Should be a nice day in the southeast.
Is this a little hot?
That might be a little warm. I would say that's
I mean, we know it's above average, but we're asking, like, does it feel hot to you?
Yeah. That's well, dew points probably make a difference in there.
Yes. Well, and some of you are going to be going to some pretty high levels, like in Dallas. It's going to be hot today, 93 degrees, and your scorching car scale shows us just how dangerously hot it gets inside our vehicles. In 10 minutes, 112, and 30 minutes, 127 degrees.
Oh, yeah, so check that back seat. The kids and the pets, you don't want them having to deal with these dangerous levels of heat.
So you're wondering, okay, what kind of fall are we going to have? It's a common question that we get as meteorologists. And when you look ahead just to the beginning of fall, which, by the way, the astronomical fall is the 23rd this year. So take it the 25th to October, likely to be above average across a lot of the nation.
Ooh, now this map doesn't say how much above average, but you get the sense. A lot of the country going to be looking for the above average conditions. Now, overall, when we look at most of the fall, September, October, November here for you, you see, overall, again, outside of maybe the middle of the country where things may be kind of right where they kind of should be, Northeast, New England, South, West, above average.
I think it's probably more fair to say, so it's not going to be a chilly fall, because even when you're above average in fall, most of the time it's not that hot.
Yeah, we're not expecting 90s in Minneapolis in fall, but maybe more 70s than you
or even near 80, you know. All right, so time to start talking about those fall colors, and the peak times are usually late September, early October across the northern tier. I mean, northern parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Colorado as well.
Yeah, so if you really want to get into the peeping in the early season, those are kind of the spots that you want to be looking for, because, into the south, it's going to be a while here. Those areas there from Dallas to Little Rock, ATL, I mean, we're talking late October, November before you see those colors.
I just started reading an article about in Vermont, it's just getting so overcrowded with people that there's one town that's about to say we don't want any more leaf peepers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it's so beautiful. We all want to see it.
I know, we all want to see it. Although, we got it out in our neighborhood as well. All the leaves are going to change. Well, all eyes are on New York this week as Climate Week gets underway. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams has a preview. Light that would be obscuring your night sky.
Get out there and check it out. It's one of those rarities, right? You don't see it too often.
No.
All right, welcome back here to America's Morning Headquarters. Rolling on through this early part of the week. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, for some of us starting off this week, not so bright, kind of a gloomy start.
I know, we're back and forth on if we think a rainy Monday is a good thing.
I still think it depends. If you got a Monday off and it's rainy.
Well, that's true. That's true. But if you got to go to work, it might as well rain, especially if you're working from home. You don't have to drive. You don't feel like you're missing something. Right?
So it may not be so bad.
All right, well, some of you have rain right now. Some of you will keep it all day. Some of you will dry out, though, in the Northeast, so I'll show you where everything is moving. We've had some showers that have been heavy at times. Just going back over the past 7 days, of course, everything that we got from post-tropical Lee up here in Maine, that was really heaviest up across Maine, eastern Maine especially, 4 or 5, even close to 6 inches of rainfall. This rain that we had in Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut, this was from 2 fronts that we had last week. And you see how it's, it's about the same amount. It might be a little bit bigger. We had a couple of 8 to 10 inch totals there in Connecticut. So, we are very saturated across this area. No matter why you got your rain, it fell and it's got everything saturated. Streams and creeks are running full. So now that we bring in more rain, we have to be worried about the chance for flash flooding because the rain could be heavy at times today and tonight into early tomorrow. We have rain out there right now. It's light rain in New York City and across Long Island, scattered showers across Connecticut. Up towards Poughkeepsie, we got some rain that's a little steadier at times right now. But you see this big batch of moisture offshore. So this is going to get moved and lifted up into the Northeast. Here we got a couple of pops of energy coming on in, one kind of in with that. So here we go. That moves out, and that's going to help lift all of this moisture up into New England, and that's going to mean that we get heavy rain for the afternoon and the ride home from work today. Look at the forecast. This is just the next couple of hours across Long Island. We see that lifting in with heavier rainfall. Connecticut, Rhode Island, we get into some heavier rain here as well. Throughout Massachusetts, rain heavy at times, and especially the eastern part of the state. Boston, whether you're traveling on 95, 495, or taking 93 up into New Hampshire, you are going to be in a downpour. Rain that your wipers you're like, do we have another speed here? You need to keep up with it because it's going to be that kind of heavy rainfall that continues into this evening and overnight lifting up through Maine. Now, we dry out for the rest of us at that point, but Maine's still raining. So that's where we have some of the biggest totals coming in. We may see more than 2 or 3 inches of rain coming your way most spots 1 to 2 into southeastern New England and even New York City, where, it is still raining right now. It's light enough that it should be less than an inch. Alex?
Well, Jen, we're going to be watching.
Going into post-tropical, a lot of those winds were spread out and up, actually, as well in the atmosphere.
Absolutely. Well, finally writing the saying goodbye to Lee at this point, racing on off. You can kind of see at the top of the screen, racing on off towards the north and the east. But what else
probably
is here?
gets Ireland. It'll probably get to Ireland and the UK.
I would think so,
it's on that track.
Absolutely. All right, so here's what we got right now. A couple of areas to watch. And a hurricane. Nigel situated here right in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yes, in the middle, not affecting any land. It's not expected to. Bermuda is right here. And Bermuda, after 3 brushes with tropical systems already this season, I know you're looking at this like, not again.
Yes, you will avoid this one. That is a good news. But we'll keep an eye on the one coming off of Africa. And then also off the southeast coast, there's a front dangling, and that front could be an instigator for a system trying to develop later this week.
It's a 30% chance of developing. So while it's not a high chance, it's not zero either. And sometimes these kind of conditions can change very rapidly. So we'll watch this zone. This is kind of a known issue. You kind of get into September and even October, where you get fronts off the coast and they can spawn tropical systems.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep an eye on the opportunity for more wet weather coming up the southeast coast into the mid-Atlantic. This is the European model's forecast from Wednesday through Sunday, and it spits out here eastern Virginia, southern parts of Jersey, some heavier rains. American GFS model, though, more areas included in the heavy rain area zone.
Regardless of whether we get something to develop, there's going to be rain here, and just the timing of it, there's uncertainty whether it's tropical in development or not. So it's definitely one to watch. By the way, here's just a quick look at Nigel. It is a Cat 1 right now, but it's expected to increase its strength to a major hurricane yet again. Well, it's been a rough start to fall as Chris Bruin jumped into the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander to spend a day in Death Valley National Park and discover the surprising diversity of the desert landscape.
Which is just 0.5%. So, yeah,
wow.
Portland, getting those bike legs going.
Yeah, well, most of the year you have some pretty good weather for that. Here it actually looks good out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cooler, 70s.
Yeah.
We'll enjoy some sunshine for the day.
Well, my pick city this week was Inspired World.
Unsupported.
Unsupported. And I don't even know what that means because it's up. It's staying. The first is in St. Peter's in Rome. The second is the Taj Mahal. And then the state capital, Minnesota.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Well, you got a nice looking day today. Temps in the 70s. We do heat up this week in Minnesota. Look at Wednesday's forecast for St. Paul, 86.
That's a warm day.
Yeah, that's above average.
Yeah, for sure. I like that fact. That's a good one for the trivia team.
Yeah,
that's going to pop at at some point. All right, let's get to the questions of the day. We're asking you
right now, but keep the votes coming in.
Oh, wow.
It's close. It's close.
Thanks for getting your Monday started off right here with America's Morning Headquarters.
We'll use the mid-morning hours to plan for the big events in your neighborhood. And we've got folks in Boston. Well, umbrellas are up this morning.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Umbrellas up. You got to just prepare for Monday. That's really the way to describe it.
I definitely have certain shoes I'm only going to wear in the rain. Like, of all my sneakers, not all of them will I wear on a rainy day.
Oh, you got to know which ones can kind of handle it.
Yeah. We can handle it, and you don't want to get like discolored from being wet and dirty, and right. We all have these shoe issues, I'm sure. But we're going to be watching the rain here heavy at times, and we'll show you when it finally moves out. Plus, we got to keep an eye on what's going on in the tropics close to home. Yeah, watching a front that's brought some relief in terms of the heat and humidity to parts of Florida. But that same front could be a bit of a troublemaker here down the road. And potentially spawn something off the southeast coast. Yes, so we'll delve into this and show you what the options are. Plus, hail returns to the forecast in the central U.S. Yes, hail like this, or maybe even bigger. Yeah, how about golf ball plus? Yeah. That's a possibility out there for you. So, yeah, we'll detail exactly where that's going to be here over the coming days. Now, the wet, soggy. So it is a pretty soggy week on top of a soggy last week. Just look back at the past 7 days here in New England, where we saw big rain out of Lee. That was up here in Maine. And then this rain was because of 2 fronts that we had in southern New England. In Massachusetts and in Connecticut and Rhode Island, there were spots with more than 8 inches of rain. This is just in the past 7 days. And now we bring in more rain today. That's why a flood watch is up eastern Massachusetts, parts of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, and up into New Hampshire and Maine. I mean, this is where some of the heaviest of rain is going to be. You can actually get a sort of a sense of that when you see This over the ocean right now. That's a big plume of moisture. That is going to lift right up here into the northeast and bring us some heavy rain for the rest of the day. Everyone else, like back towards Philly and New York City, you're going to start to clear out and dry out. So in Philly, we're pretty much done. New York City still have a little more light rain left behind there, but we're going to watch all of this get moved right up here into New England and giving us some bigger rainfall rates, some bigger rainfall totals right through the end of the day. And I know you look outside and it's raining already. Believe it or not, that rain is going to get heavier. And you can see that in our forecast radar. When you see these yellows and oranges, even reds showing up on the radar, those are some bigger rainfall rates. Connecticut, Rhode Island, we get it first, about 3, 4 o'clock or so. Then moving up into Massachusetts, your commute home from Boston up into New Hampshire, it is going to be a mess of a ride. And, I know the leaves aren't really changing yet. Some of them are at some of the higher elevation spots. But, at this point in the season, you do get some leaves coming down, and that can add to create some slick situations on the roadways. Wet leaves are very slippery. And then we get up into Maine, and it's still raining overnight tonight. Doesn't move out until tomorrow. That gives us about 2 to 3 inches of rain up there. New Hampshire, too. You're in that pockets of 2 to 3 inches. For the most part, it's 1 to 2 here into southern New England, even up to northern New England as well. And spots like New York City, we're about done. We're not going to add a whole lot more to that rain gauge there. But we could still have some airport delays. So we've got to keep an eye on the low cloud situation at Newark and LaGuardia. Also, Boston and Portland, I think you will have more likely delays just because you've got the worst weather. Another spot with the big downpours is
when you see both models at least spitting something out, there's confidence that we're going to see some increased rain chances.
Even if it's not a tropical low, it'll be a low likely that will increase your rain.
So we'll watch it for you. Keep tuning back for all the very latest. Well, did you guys notice maybe a little change? There's something you can have a little bit of both.
Honestly, I don't want one or the other.
Well,
I don't want it to be purely rainy.
If you have to pick. Yeah. But yes, the key is variety, right? I think if I had too much blue sky, crisp blue sky, temps in the 70s, all fall long, even I would get bored with that.
Yes, that would be way too boring. You need some clouds.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The meteorologist and all of us, the weather geek and all of us needs to have those clouds out there.
We do. Send your comments on in. Keep voting as well. You can do that on X and send those comments on X.
The thing, you might think this, wow, it's so early for snow in Colorado. Not at the highest elevations.
Yeah, it's
always happens.
Not something that we aren't used to seeing, but whenever you do see that first snow, always kind of gets you like, oh man, look at that.
I know. Is it that time already? Now, temps today, Denver, we got 68 degrees right now to start and, probably going up from there. A number of spots really going up this week. You see those little barbs in the background. That's the wind. We got a southerly flow coming in. And
generally you get a southerly flow, a southerly wind. That's a warmer wind. And so, those numbers are going to climb a bit here for us over the coming days. Right now, looking at the dew points, certainly very dry there in the mountains there as you get into the Rockies. And still dry in the middle of the country, too. 40s and 50 dew points, comfortable.
I call this air you barely notice. It's like not too humid, not too dry. It's really quite nice. Now, temperature-wise, we are going to heat up. North Platte, we go to 91, Pierre 90. These are all above average temperatures for September.
Yeah, so with some of that drier air, that dry air can heat up pretty rapidly with the sunshine. So that's what we're experiencing in those areas. They're right in the heartland. Minneapolis, though, should be enjoying a really nice day, 70s and sunshine. You go through the Ohio Valley, down through the Tennessee Valley and into the Mid-Atlantic. Things are looking quite nice. We've been comfortable this morning, a little on the crisp side, but not cold. And already temperatures are settling into a really nice, comfortable level. Yeah, 73 in the ATL. Can't beat that. Got some upper 60s in Cincinnati. And the numbers aren't expected to climb that far as we get in towards this afternoon. So, one of those days where you can roll down the windows and, give the AC a bit of a break there in the car. Now, Boston, you're on this map, and we don't really mean to lump you in with everyone else here because it is 65 degrees with a 64-degree dew point, and it is raining. Yeah, so there are exceptions to the rule for the day, and Boston would be that, no doubt. Looking at the dew points here for us, when was the last time we saw the 50 dew points in the Deep South? All the way to Pensacola? Nice. It's been a very nice morning out there. We're taking a walk, whether it's on the beach or not, really enjoying that air. Temperatures today heating up to the upper 80s. So we're running a little above average. In Kansas City, 87 is beyond where you would expect to be, but it's not record-breaking necessarily. Right. Tennessee Valley, though, really spectacular day on tap. From Nashville to Knoxville, really enjoying a nice day there. And D.C., also not too bad out there either. Now, Boston is stuck out at 66. You're where you're at for the day. Sorry, Boston. Well, we want to continue to highlight our scorching car scale, even in areas that aren't getting crazy hot. Atlanta, 79 for the high. Well, after 10 minutes, the car in the sunshine's up to 98. After a half an hour, 113. That's dangerous levels of heat for anyone to be in a vehicle.
Yeah, so beat the heat, check the back seat, making sure kids and pets are not left in cars. We want to talk about what's the outlook going into next week because, by the way, Saturday is the astronomical first day of fall. So by all measures, fall will have begun by then, and we're likely to be above average for that first week of fall, last week of September, getting into October 1st.
Yeah, vast majority of the country, the exception in the West.
Yeah.
Well, talk of change brings the eyes of the world to New York this week.
Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams has a preview of what's on the agenda as Climate Week gets underway. Be obscuring your view either. So get away from city lights and go check it out.
All right. And if you get the camera ready and if you get something, send it to us.
Oh, yeah. We'll show it tomorrow. Welcome
back. America's Morning Headquarters here on this Monday, rolling on through. And yeah, we talked about some of the cloud cover that we've got there in parts of the northern plains, upper Midwest. We certainly have it in the Northeast.
It is just dreary, rainy. It's not cool, but it's not warm either.
It's just meh.
65 degrees and rain. It's not a good day weather-wise. I mean, look, and I do think you might as well do this on a Monday. If you're going to have weather like this, you might as well have it on a Monday and not have to be using up your precious weekend days with bad, crummy weather. Although we did that this weekend in Maine, thanks to what was post-tropical Lee up here, brought us anywhere from 3, 4, even 5 inches of rainfall there, especially in eastern Maine. Lee didn't actually bring much rain to Massachusetts. It was less than 1/10 of an inch in Boston. But last week, we had 2 fronts that brought us big rain across the state of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, 2 areas that saw more than 8 inches of rainfall. So everything is pretty saturated. You've got the ground that's saturated. You've got streams and creeks that are running full after all of this rainfall. And that's one of the concerns out there why flood watch is up. We've got some pretty heavy rain on the way for this afternoon. It's already been a steady rain, but there is more to come. And you can see that now starting to work its way up. Look at this. It's just now beginning in eastern Connecticut. We've got all of these yellows showing up on the radar, indicating some bigger rainfall rates. That's what I start to worry about for problems. The lighter rain, not so much, even on the saturated ground, probably wasn't going to cause a lot of problems. But once we get into this heavy stuff, which, by the way, there's a lot more where that came from, moving up here into New England, that's when we could see some flooding or flash flooding, water ponding on roadways, and some of the areas that don't drain that well could have some issues for drivers out there. We'll see this through the afternoon. Long Island, heavy rain for you, watching up through Connecticut, New Haven, and up towards Bridgeport. We get into some heavier rain here, watching that move up into Massachusetts by about 4 or 5 o'clock. So now all of a sudden everything's getting canceled for this evening. Your kids practice, whether it's football or maybe lacrosse or soccer. The fields are just going to be too wet with all of this rain coming in, and we see that continuing into after dinner time up through New Hampshire and into Maine. Rain heavy at times, even overnight, still in Maine before this is all finally lifting out by tomorrow. And we are adding up. We have about 1 to 2 inches of rain in the forecast across much of New England. There'll be pockets of 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. The other spot that gets wet today, but much more scattered, is in the plains, Alex. But going into post-tropical, a lot of those winds were spread out and up, actually, as well in the atmosphere.
Absolutely. Well, finally, writing the saying goodbye to Lee at this point, racing on off. You can kind of see at the top of the screen, racing on off towards the north and the east. But what else?
Probably gets Ireland. It'll probably get to Ireland and the UK.
I would think so,
it's on that track.
Absolutely. All right, so here's what we got right now. A couple of areas to watch. And a hurricane. Nigel situated here right in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yes, in the middle, not affecting any land. It's not expected to. Bermuda is right here. And Bermuda, after 3 brushes with tropical systems already this season, I know you're looking at this like, not again.
Yes, you will avoid this one. That is a good news. But we'll keep an eye on the one coming off of Africa. And then also off the southeast coast, there's a front dangling, and that front could be an instigator for a system trying to develop later this week.
It's a 30% chance of developing. So while it's not a high chance, it's not 0 either. And sometimes these kind of conditions can change very rapidly. So we'll watch this zone. This is kind of a known issue. You kind of get into September and even October where you get fronts off the coast and they can spawn tropical systems.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep an eye on the opportunity for more wet weather coming up the southeast coast into the mid-Atlantic. This is the European model's forecast from Wednesday through Sunday, and it spits out here eastern Virginia, southern parts of Jersey, some heavier rains. American GFS model, though, more areas included in the heavy rain area zone.
Regardless of whether we get something to develop, there's going to be rain here, and just the timing of it, there's uncertainty whether it's tropical in development or not. So it's definitely one to watch. By the way, here's just a quick look at Nigel. It is a Cat 1 right now, but it's expected to increase its strength to a major hurricane yet again. Well, it's been a rough start to fall.